What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have Invests 94W and 95W to pay attention to in the Western Pacific Ocean, respectively. I've been also paying attention to other computer models that are calling for a typhoon to potentially intensify at a very explosive rate and become a super typhoon potentially down the road. We'll have to see how this whole thing plays out. But in the meantime, we have stuff going on right now in the Western Pacific at the current point in time. Here's the situation. This is Invest 94W, designated by Tropical Tidbits right here. This as of 1800 UTC at this current point in time. Here, the current location is 8.7 degrees north, 131.5 degrees east. The maximum sustained winds remain at 15 knots, or about 20 miles per hour. The minimum central pressure is 1,007 millibars. It was 1,008 yesterday. Now it has dropped slightly down to 1,007. Right now, we don't have a radius of circulation and radius of maximum wind or anything like that, but based off of what I'm seeing right now, there has been continued convection firing up just over and over and over and over again. It's mainly localized, though, near the center of circulation, so definitely something to pay attention to, especially as the Philippines start to get some impacts from this area of interest right here, as the rainfall continues to pour down in the southeastern Philippines at this current point in time. And then we are seeing more convection firing up and then dying off as time continues to go on. Definitely something to pay attention to as time continues to progress at this current point in time. That's Invest 94W. Here's Invest 95W. This is the main one I'm watching right here because this has a higher chance of organization and development in the long term and potentially striking the Philippines in the next 10 days or so. So here's the situation we have right here. This is Invest 95W. Its current location is 3.1 degrees north and 156.5 degrees east. The maximum sustained winds are at 15 knots, and minimum central pressure is 1,008 millibars at this current point in time. And there's no radius of maximum wind or anything like that, but we do have, based off of satellite imagery, continued signs of organization and convection starting to fire up around the area. All right, here we are starting to see more of a convection blow up in the northern part of the system than we are in the southern part of the system. In fact, a lot of this is still in the equator at this current point, so definitely something to wait and see how this plays out. And depending on how far north up this goes will depend on how quickly this does end up organizing and developing at this current point in time. So Invest 95W is definitely something to pay attention to. We have more convection firing up across the whole area of interest, and we are in some of the best conditions in the entire world for development at this current point in time. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and show you some track models and the intensity models at this current point in time. Here's the track models based off of what we have for Invest 94W. Here's what we have with the track. The track is anticipated in the next 24 hours to continue to approaching the Philippines before eventually dissipating, according to what the GFS is anticipating at this current point in time. Right here, it's expected to remain 1,007 millibars before ultimately the storm gets in its own way. And while bringing some rainfall and gusty winds to the Philippines, it's ultimately not going to be too big of a threat unless you guys are living in the mountains and there could be a potential area of mudslides right there. So this is definitely something to pay attention to. Here's the intensity models at this current point in time. Intensity models back this situation up, although there are a couple of outliers calling for tropical storm strength at this current point in time. Those are just outliers at this point, and this thing is expected to remain around a 1,007, 1,006, 1,008 millibar system as it approaches the Philippines and brings heavy rain, gusty winds, and all those areas. If this does develop, it would really surprise me at this current point. However, other than the expected rainfall and the gusty winds that we're potentially going to be looking at, I'm not overly that concerned when it comes to it at this current point in time. But what I am concerned about is Invest 95W. Here's the tracks for Invest 95W. The track models are still a bit iffy at this current point, but the majority of them do favor a more westward track at this current point, as this is This is near Papua. The closest it is near Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands at this current point in time. We have the GFS expecting just really this thing stay in the area. The GEM, same thing. The European is expecting this to take loop-de-loops and all that. Most likely, this thing is going to continue pushing further to the west, especially after the 48-hour mark. So this is definitely something we need to keep an eye on as time continues to go on. And the track models, I've noticed, are a bit more wonky out here in the Western Pacific than they are like in the Atlantic or the Eastern Pacific or any of the other basins that I've really covered in the past. But what is interesting to take a look at is intensity. A lot of the ensembles right now are forecasting something pretty interesting to happen. A lot of the ensembles are calling for this thing after 72 hours to organize and develop into a potential typhoon. Some of them are calling for for rapid strengthening. In fact, we have one ensemble down the road right here. It's actually going to get down to the 930s millibars as it approaches the Philippines near Luzon and those areas over there. So definitely something to pay attention to as time continues to go on. But still, we have a majority of models that are forecasting a potential typhoon with this, at least after the next 72 hours. It's going to be a multi-day process where it's going to be organizing and developing, and then after that, it's going to be strengthening through all the great conditions it is going to be moving through. You're probably wondering, what are these great conditions you are talking about? Well, here's what we have going on so far. We have global sea temperatures for both 94W and 95W over 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit for those of you who live in the United States or Myanmar or Burma. I like to call it both, but that's besides the point. We have 30 degrees Celsius waters. We have 28 degrees Celsius or 82 degree Fahrenheit waters all the way from Taiwan to Australia. So comparing this to the Atlantic, where there's like a more isolated area in the Caribbean Sea of about 30 degrees Celsius, there's 30 degrees Celsius waters all across the Western Pacific. And this is one of the reasons I'm so concerned about typhoon development, and this is one of the reasons why we see more typhoons develop here than we do hurricanes in the Atlantic or Eastern Pacific, because the conditions are always here. That's what we have with the global sea temperatures. Next thing we're showing you is the ocean heat content, and I cannot stress you enough right here, the OHC is absolutely insane. The OHC across much of the Western Pacific is exceeding 250 OHC. For those of you who do not know how much fuel that is, 100 OHC, just 100 OHC is rapid intensification equivalent right there. 200 is explosive intensification, or roughly 150. It's more likely with 200, but 150 is when explosive intensification comes to play. And we're seeing 150 OHC plus from Taiwan all the way through the Western Pacific Ocean. Anything more than that is, if a storm gets in any of these areas, yeah, it's going to explosively intensify, and there's not really going to be that much stopping it down the road. That's what we have with the OHC. I am very concerned with the insane amount of OHC that this year, not only in the Atlantic, as we saw a lot of that happening, but also in the Western and Eastern Pacific. Even in the Eastern Pacific, there is still potential for another tropical system if the shear does calm down. We're looking at an isolated area of 250 OHC plus, which is absolutely ridiculous for that part of the ocean at this current point. And now if we go ahead and show you the wind shear at this current point in time, the wind shear has remained consistently good across the Western Pacific. The wind shear where 94W is, it's about 5 to 10 knots. The wind shear where 95W is about, I'd say, 10 to 15 knots, maybe exceeding 20 in the outer bands of it. However, it's overall very strong, not very strong, but overall very weak, and overall very conducive for quick development. In fact, if we go ahead and even show you the last 12 hours, we've seen wind shear especially weaken and kind of just fluctuate as time continues to go on through there. However, it's remained very consistent around the Philippines. It's remained very consistent around Palau. It's remained very consistent around the northern Mariana Islands. It's remained very consistent across a lot of these areas. So this is all stuff we need to pay attention to as time continues to go on. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and now show you what models we're looking at, because we have some stuff pulled up that is absolutely interesting and absolutely shocking to take a look at least for someone who is used to covering weather in the United States. Here's what we have with the GFS model at this current point in time. GFS is showing signs of organization with 95W and development, with the ensembles already having this stronger than what the operational is calling for. So there is a bit of a disconnect right there. We'll have to see how that whole thing plays out. I'm definitely paying attention to it. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center, I'm hoping they tag this pretty soon, especially as this thing pushes further to the north and gets further away from the equator, and that Coriolis force can take effect. Meanwhile, the GFS is showing some stuff going on. However, about a week out, it's showing signs of organization and development, and then really rapid intensification just south of the northern Mariana Islands. And as this thing approaches the Philippines, we get down to a 919 millibar system by about 15 days out as this thing continues to move through the western Pacific, and another typhoon right behind it. Keep in mind, this is 16 to 15 days out, so take this with a massive grain of salt. However, I'm still paying attention to this primarily because all the conditions and for all the right reasons are there. We'll go ahead and show you the CMC model as well. CMC has been pretty interesting, to say at the very least. CMC is showing signs of organization, really quick organization, rather, starting in the next 72 hours near Papua New Guinea, where 95L is, showing signs of organization and development, really getting down to the 980s, 970s, 960s millibar system before making impacts in the northern Mariana Islands, especially near Guam and those areas right there as this thing continues to move through. By the time it does approach those areas, it's about, 204 hours out, so that's about 8.5 to 9 days out. So still take that with a grain of salt. However, if several models are calling for tropical development at this current point, it's definitely something to pay attention to, especially as the CMC starts initiating development in the next 96 hours, which is about 4 days from now. So if you are in the Philippines, if you are in the Northern Mariana Islands, if you're anywhere in between, pay very close attention over the next little while. And now we're going to go ahead and show you the icon model at this current point in time. Here's the icon that is kind of interesting to take a look at. The icon isn't really forecasting that much development, but by the time we're at 18 hours out, we're about 18Z, we're at 120 hours out. The 12Z is not showing that much, but the ensembles are absolutely screaming that. If we go ahead and show you the Canadian ensembles very quickly, Canadian ensembles are absolutely showing tropical development happening, with typhoons potentially impacting both the Philippines and the area going on in the Northern Mariana Islands. And if we go ahead and show you the GFS ensembles, same situation right here. So this is definitely something to pay attention to as time continues to go on. Even the European ensembles are forecasting the similar stuff at this current point in time. So this is all stuff we need to pay attention to as time continues to progress. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close the video out right here. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It helps us out, helps us make more videos like these. The goal of this channel is to get more people engaged with weather. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.